Hello, can everybody hear me? Yes? My name is Eric Nicholas Smit. I'm a visual designer. I come from Luxembourg. And first of all, I would like to thank Maxon for inviting me here. It's always a pleasure and an honor to talk about my work. So this is one of my work. Obviously, I didn't create this painting. This is a painting by Jan Steen. It's a Dutch painter from the 17th century. And I was asked by a museum to make a video about it. So the video would explain its content, its theme, its composition. So the museum first asked me to make slideshows, to take pictures of part of the paintings, and then make a video out of these pictures and explain the content. But I thought it was boring, you know, slideshow, we all know them. It's just a succession of images. It doesn't give you really the feeling, the texture of the painting and the era where it was painted. So I proposed something a bit more ambitious. I said I would go inside the painting. I would transform this whole painting into a 3D environment, and then we would explore it with a camera, highlighting its theme, going here, 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 and then play with lights, with texture, and also with depth of field. So my first mission was to transform this painting into a 3D environment with volumes. Now, the difficulty here is that I couldn't change the painting radically. It had to keep its texture, its light, its colors. So how do you transform this into a 3D environment that you can navigate on? So my first idea was to actually model everything. So to create a complete 3D environment with texture. But this is extremely difficult because this painting doesn't make much sense in a 3D perspective, because the room has a 3D shape, but the characters are flat. It would be very difficult to create geometries out of this. So I had another idea, it's to sculpt the scene. So I'll show you what I did. So I decided here to sculpt the whole scene directly on the painting using the sculpting tool. So here you see it. We have already a bit of volume. So I used my brush. Here I'll switch to the sculpting layout. Here, add a layer. And what I did first, I thought it would work, is just to sculpt here the character and try to recreate a 3D density and depth. So that's what I did here and here. But while I was working, I just stopped because this method doesn't give me any depth. We have little volume that looks like engraving or like a bas-relief, but we cannot really move around the character, and we don't get the sense of the depth of the scene. So what I had to do is to split the painting into different layers and work on each element separately. So what I did in Photoshop is to totally reconstruct the painting. And I'll show you what I did here in the picture viewer. I'll just open up my file. It takes a little while because it's a very heavy file. So here is the painting that I worked on in Photoshop. Let me center it here. And I'll just hide everything for now. And what I did is that I just created alpha maps for every character. Here we have the lady. I did it also for the little girl here. And for the king in the background. And also here for the nun we saw here. And also the little doggy here. So now I had my character in different layers, and I could start organizing my painting. So I'll just open up my scene here. So here we have the scene. I'll extend here. With the layer. So here I have the lady in the front as a separate layer, and I have the background. And also here we have the little girl. But what you can notice here is that with this technique, I can only move a little bit, because if I move too much, if I rotate around, we see the girl on the painting in the back. So this was an issue for me, and I had to solve it. And to solve it, I had actually to remove the characters from the background, to repaint whole area of the painting, and just to clone and to be able to have an empty background. So in my Photoshop layout, I'll just bring it back here in the picture viewer. We have the painting. And in my layer, I'll just hide everything, the character here in the front. We have the background, and I created a new background that you can see here. Here is my new background. So as you see, in Photoshop, I just clone and removed all the characters, not all of them. It wasn't necessary because these parts are hidden. So if you compare here the original painting to my version, there's quite a heavy painting. And this was rather long because this is a classic artwork. I cannot just do whatever I want. I had to keep the same colors, the same cracks in the paint, the same canvas texture and light. So we have here my correction, and here the original. I also did it for the floor. I had to reconstruct whole parts of the floor. Here without, with. And I also extended the painting a little bit to give me a bit of freedom to move my camera here and here. So this was my painting without the character. But what I also had to do is to remove some characters from the other ones. Because if you look here, this one here, the character here with the Chinese hat, you can see the head of the girl in front of it. And if I want to move my camera, I need to remove the head from his outfit. So I repainted this character. Here, I'll show it to you here. And I'll remove the lady. So I repainted his body, here the claws. Here it's without, and here with, while still trying to keep the same style, the same brushes. I did it also for here the king. I extended his cape. And for the man here, I call him the dark man. I recreated his jacket and part of his hat. So now that I reconstructed most of the character and I had a clean background, I could create my scene in layers and I would be able to move my camera. And this is the result in Cinema 4D. So I'll just remove here the original back and put my new one and bring the character in. So now I have my scene with the isolated and repainted character and the background. And as you can see, I can rotate, and it looks fine. I can even move, zoom, and here move a little bit. And the scene has already 3D dimensionality. I can use angular movement and just play, and it starts to look already much better. But what is missing now is that these characters are just totally flat. If I'm in a front view, it looks okay. But as soon as I turn, well, we see it's flat. And I still needed to add volume to it and also lights. So what I did is that I sculpted independently each object. I'll just show you for one here, the lady. Just open up my scene. Where is she? Here. So here I have my isolated character. And I just went in the sculpting environment, the sculpting tool of Cinema 4D. I subdivided a little bit here, my character, and I started here sculpting it. I'll just show you how it's done. Here I have my pool brush. And I just started, gently sculpt it. Always turning on a side view to see the result. Now, the difficult part of this sculpting is that I had to keep it very, very soft because I didn't want to change the morphology of the character. And also for the face, if I use very strong brush, then I change the complete expression, and this was not allowed. I had to keep the same look. So I had to keep just very soft extrusion here on the sides. I'll make just a bit more pressure here. And then here, the robe. I just sculpt it like this to give a 3D feeling to my 2D object. Like so, like so. Now, I won't do it now. I will stop because I could take 1 hour to create this 3D sculpting. So I'll show you how the result that I created was about 1 hour of work. And this was my girl with almost like a 3D aspect, while still retaining the style of the painting. So now with this sculpted object, I can move a little bit the camera here, and it looks fine. It doesn't look flat, but it keeps the style of the painting from Jan Steen. And if I turn off here the texture, you can see the sculpting itself. It's simple, it's soft, but it gives a nice depth to the character. Now I'll show you the whole scene with the sculpted elements. So this is my scene with all my sculpted characters. You see the table, the nun, the lady, the girl, the little dog. And also the room, what I did for the room. I sculpted also here the chimney, the little doorway, the curtain, always using very soft brushes. And here I have already a nice 3D environment that allows me to move the camera a little bit. Now I cannot go too far because if I go like this, then it just looks very strange. But I can do a few angles, a few degrees. Here is with the texture. So now we have here my 3D environment with its texture and the 3D volumes. And I can navigate in it. And if I move here my camera, you see that the girl, there's a nice parallax effect. We see the back being revealed if I move like so. And it behaves like a real 3D environment. So now that I had this scene, I could just move my camera freely and just highlight one part, make it stand out, and get out, and also make a nice transition from the original painting to the my 3D environment. What are they doing there? So for the lighting, I had also to use light in my scene because with the light you get very nice volume and very nice shading. But for the lighting, I had to keep it subtle. Because if I used a very strong angular light, I would change totally the tone of the painting. So I had to mix a frontal light, very flat, that is exactly like the painting, and an angular light, that emphasize the volume. So what I did is to create sunlight here, an infinite light, slightly orange. Sorry, I selected area, I wanted infinite. And by using here the camera set active object as camera, I can see the scene from my light as a projector. And I just place it here from the same angle as the light coming from the window. So if I go back to my camera now, here, we see we have here a very strong light coming from the left. But this is too strong because it changed radically the painting. So I had to mix it with a very soft front light. And for this, I use an environment lighting here. And with the environment lighting, I bring back a bit of flat illumination. If I put it to 100, then we have a totally flat illumination. We don't see the volume anymore. But if I bring it back, we see the volume of my painting. So I had to find the right balance. We had to see the volume, but the painting had to keep its original composition. So with something like 80 with front environment lights, and the sunlight at maybe 80 as well, I had something acceptable. And for the material, because right now we have only the texture, I used a few effects. I'll switch back here to my standard layout here and pick up one of the layer. It's the child that you see here. And to create a little bit of a dynamic look, I included here a Fresnel in the luminance. This creates a side edge brightness. And also I included a bit of specularity. If I hit render, it looks like this. It takes a little while to prepare because there are some heavy layers. It looks like this. I turn it around here. We have a bit of a hedge brightness. And in the diffusion, I also included a fall-off. The fall-off is just to create a directional shading. I just made it darker from the side that is the opposite from the window and brighter on the side, on this side, on the window side. Just do it here. So yeah, here is my final render with the shading and the lighting. And now I could start moving the camera in sync to the narration, because we had a narrator that just explained what was the painting about, and I create the camera movement in synchronization, so we would stop on one character, move on one object, and have further explanation. So I'll open up here the scene with my final camera movement. So here we have my final scene where I created the final sequence. And the final sequence was just one very long camera movement, a 5-minute camera movement in the painting, in sync with the narration. So we have here my camera. And in the beginning, we move slowly towards the painting. And at this moment, in post-production, I make my transition between the original painting to the 3D environment. And then we started exploring the painting, going to one character, then to the table, then to other details, and so on. I'll just play back one sequence so you can see it with the narration. It's in German, I'm sorry.
Heute ist es meistens eine kleine Figur aus Plastik. Wer beim Essen die Bohne findet, diese hat er sich auf seinen Hut gesteckt. Auch die Männer links und rechts von
The
ihm
camera
haben
moves very
selbstgemachte
slowly
Hüte auf.
because it's for a
Der
museum. I
rechts
didn't want to
hat
have
einen umgedrehten
hectic
Korb
camera
auf dem
movement.
Kopf, der linke ist wie ein Chinese verkleidet. Damals gehörten zum Dreikönigsfest lustige Verkleidungen dazu. Außerdem wurde viel Bier und Wein getrunken. Auf dem Bild sind schon alle etwas betrunken.
But this camera movement had to be extended with a way to focus on the elements. So to create a local focus, I used spotlight in sync to the narration. So here I created a whole set of spots. Sorry. So I created a whole set here of little spotlights to put the focus on different elements in synchronization with the narration. So we have a spotlight on the girl, spotlight on the lady, on the table, and I control this. And I control this spotlight here with user data. So I had here my whole set of user data, and with slider, I could illuminate one part of it. So for example, here I can illuminate the child, like so, or a character in the back. And this little manager where I have all my sliders and my controllers for Spotlight is done with Espresso. So in Espresso, I linked this slider to the whole sets of spotlights. So this is done very quickly. I'll do it for one spotlight that I have here, the character spotlight. Here I grab the lady spotlight. And this spotlight, I just open my Espresso editor here. And user data, I add another user data here. I will call it lady spot. And I'll use as interface a float slider. Click OK. And then in Espresso, I have here a new user data, the lady spot. And I can drop my spotlight here and select in the port the general intensity and link both. Hopla. And now I have in my illumination control a slider for the lady spot here. So what I did, I had here one manager where I could animate all my spotlights and find the right balance to just highlight one part or another part. And for the whole animation, it was just about putting keyframe here, 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 whenever I needed to a different setup. So I'll show you how it looks with here the lady, with a render. So we have here the spotlight on the lady. I'll just reduce the sunlight a little bit here. So we see she's emphasized, but not in an excessive way. I had to keep it subtle. And then another thing I did to get a more focused view is also to use depth of field. So for this, I blurred the texture in the background, also using an Espresso system. So here I have my blurring control. I'll show you how it looks. Let me bring back here the sun with the child. So here I have my blurring control. I'll just put everything to the max. And just turn it off for the child here. And now if I hit render, you see she is sharp, but the background is blurred. I'll play it again from a frontal view. You see here it's blurry, but she's sharp. And that was another way to just get a focal point on one element. And again, for the whole animation, it was just about animating the slider, putting the blurring on one element, the sharpness on another, and following the narration. So before we move to the introduction that I created, I'll just show you here a quick video that summarizes what we did. And to create a nice introduction, I wanted to build a whole room that was similar to the painting. So we would start in a room from the 17th century and then move slowly to the painting and then go inside the painting. It was a way to create a bit of interest in the beginning and put the viewer in the mood, in the atmosphere. And it was also necessary to bring in the music and the introduction. So I recreated a room, I'll open it, that is similar to this environment. There's some very high resolution texture, that's why it takes a little while. So I'll just move away from my camera here. So this is the room I created. And if I open here my picture viewer and go back to the original painting, you see that in this new room, there are many elements that creates an echo. The window frame looks identical. I also included a curtain here. And then we have the plate shelf. It's a reproduction of the plate shelf here. And we have also here furniture, also similar to the painting, and plates and vase here, also an echo from the painting. And here on the wall, I have another painting from the same artist, Jan Steen. And then on this wall, we have the painting, Epiphany. So my idea was to travel in this room a little bit and then move closer to the painting. So I had a camera movement going from the window and then slowly going along the wall and turning and then being in front of the painting, and then we would penetrate in it. And for the exterior, what we see here through the window, I use it, let me get out. I use it elements from another painting from Jan Steen. It's a view of a city, probably Leiden or I don't know. And it's actually the same environment that you see in this painting here. I just wanted to to stay in the universe from this painter, so I thought it would be fun to have the exterior the same in the painting. And if I play back here the whole rendered sequence, you can see how it looks. So here's the scene with illumination. Again, I use it very slow movement, not to create something that was too distracting or annoying, because we had to focus also on the narration, on the explanation. So then we get to the painting, and then we switch to the other sequence where we go inside the painting.
Final note, reality is the ultimate tool for all your virtual production needs. Simple green screen or blue screen applications, pure augmented applications with shadows and relighting, or hybrid implementation.
And now I'll show you the completed finished result.
Thank you very much for watching.
So this is the final sequence. That you can view. You can view it in the museum right now. It's next to the painting, and this one is in German with English subtitles. But we have also other language. Don't remember which. So yeah, this is the sequence you can see now in Luxembourg in the Villa Vauban Museum. It's just right next to the painting, and we thought it was really better than just putting notes. We thought it would be fun to have a little screen next to the painting so people could study the painting, then look at it and look at the video. So I'll play it back for you.
Jan Steen, das Dreikönigsfest. Dieses Gemälde heißt das Dreikönigsfest. Der niederländische Maler Jan Steen hat es vor etwa 350 Jahren gemalt. Diese Zeit wird das goldene Zeitalter der niederländischen Kunst genannt. Damals gab es in Holland sehr viele berühmte Maler. Diese Maler haben sehr viele Bilder gemalt und verkauft, genau wie der Maler Jan Steen. Er kam aus der Stadt Leiden in Südholland. Jan Steen arbeitete aber nicht nur als Maler. Er war auch Braumeister und hatte eine Kneipe. Vielleicht hat er deshalb gerne Bilder von feiernden und fröhlichen Menschen gemalt. Hier ist ein Beispiel dafür. Das Bild zeigt uns, wie die Menschen damals gelebt und gefeiert haben. Wir sehen eine Gruppe von Menschen, die in einer Küche sitzt. Am Tisch wird viel getrunken und gelacht. Die Magd ganz links im Bild zapft frisches Bier. Im Hintergrund wird Musik gemacht. Die Feier dauert schon sehr lange. Es liegen schon viele Krümel auf dem Tisch. Fast alles ist aufgegessen. Zu Beginn der Feier stand noch ein Kuchen auf dem Tisch. Jetzt ist die rote Kuchenform leer.
This was mandatory. I just couldn't go crazy with the camera movement and the 3D volume. Otherwise, it would have damaged the painting.
War also eine Galette des Rois, ein Dreikönigskuchen. Früher war in der Galette eine Bohne versteckt. Heute ist es meistens eine kleine Figur aus Plastik. Wer beim Essen die Bohne findet, ist an diesem Tag der König. Auch auf dem Bild gibt es einen König. Man kann ihn an seiner Krone aus Papier erkennen.
Diese hat er sich auf seinen Hut gesteckt. Auch die Männer links und rechts von ihm haben selbstgemachte Hüte auf. Der rechts hat einen umgedrehten Korb auf dem Kopf, der linke ist wie ein Chinese verkleidet.
Damals gehörten zum Dreikönigsfest lustige Verkleidungen dazu. Außerdem wurde viel Bier und Wein getrunken. Auf dem Bild sind schon alle etwas
And to
betrunken.
let the
Sie
user
feuern sich
really
gegenseitig an.
study the painting, I use it
gerufen,
only a soft
Trinkskönig.
and damped camera movement
Besonders die Frau
without
ganz vorne im Bild
abrupt
sieht schon ziemlich
movements.
müde und betrunken aus. Links von ihr steht ein Kind. Es bringt ihr einen Teller mit einer Waffel. Die Frau beachtet das Kind gar nicht.
And this painting is
Rechts
part of
sitzt etwas
a
abseits ein
museum
lachender
for
Mann.
all
Hier hat sich der
exposition,
Maler Jan Steen
and it's
selbst
made for
gemalt. Er wollte wohl
everybody,
gerne
for
mitfeiern.
families, for kids, also for
Die
people
Feier
with
findet in einer
disabilities.
großen Küche statt.
So the text
Es ist das Haus
is
von
quite
reichen
simple.
Leuten.
We didn't want to go
Damals
too far
sahen
away in
Küchen
art
anders aus
theory.
als heute. Dort wurde nicht nur gekocht, sondern auch zusammen gefeiert. Nur sehr reiche Leute hatten damals solche Küchen. Als Dekoration hingen Gemälde und teure Teller an der Wand. Auch der Kamin ist mit kostbaren Figuren aus Stein verziert. Links in der Ecke sitzt ein Papagei in einem Vogelkäfig. Papageien waren damals sehr selten und sehr teuer. Die Küche ist auf eine flache Leinwand gemalt. Sie sieht aber aus wie ein richtiger Raum. Wie hat der Maler Jan Steen das gemacht?
And here we will
Jan Steen
illustrate
war gut
the
darin, die
perspective
Perspektive
lines.
zu malen. Das heißt, er lässt das Bild räumlich wirken. Das sieht man zum Beispiel an den Bodenfliesen und am Deckenbalken. Die Linien der Fliesen und der Balken laufen schräg nach hinten. Auch das Regal mit den Tellern links an der Wand ist schräg.
So in post-production, I just included
Alle
lines
Linien
to
treffen sich in einem
um,
Punkt in der Mitte.
show the
Das nennt man in der
perspective.
Kunst Zentralperspektive. Der Punkt in der Mitte heißt in der Kunst Fluchtpunkt. Rechts hinten im Bild führt eine Tür nach draußen. Dort sieht man ein Liebespaar, das sich heimlich küsst. Das Paar ist viel kleiner gemalt als die Menschen in der Küche. Deshalb sieht es
And
so
in this
aus,
camera
als würden sie
movement, you
weiter
can really
hinten
feel
stehen.
the depth of the
Jan Steen
3D
hat die
scene.
Technik der Perspektive gut verstanden. Dadurch wirken seine Bilder so echt. Als Zuschauer denkt man, dass man mitten im Raum steht.
And that's it. Since we still have a bit of time, I'd like to show you a little teaser of my work to invite you to visit my website. I'm an independent visual designer, 3D artist, and this is a work commissioned for a museum, but I also do strictly CG animation. So I'll just here run. It's just a little teaser. Yeah, well, thank you very much for listening to this, and I hope you enjoy the show.